Hey, Mike here at Canadian Musician. Right now, once again, in the Media Lounge at Canadian Music Week. There was a big showcase last night at the Horseshoe Tavern as part of Canadian Music Week, celebrating 10 years of Dine Alone Records, featuring Solids, Monster Truck, fantastic lineup, and really the person at the center of it all. The reason that was happening at all is the man who started the record label, Dine Alone Records, 10 years ago. The man with me, Joel Carriere. Joel, thank you very much, man.
Thank you for having me. Sorry about the bags under the eyes from last night.
Yeah, here is a long night last night for you. Makes it all much better that you're able to take some time here. But yeah, how did the showcase go last night?
It was great. By the smell of our office, the rotten booze smell through the hallways, it seemed like everyone had a good time. People kind of arrived late, but bands were awesome. Crowd was great. And then Monster Truck to kill the night was pretty awesome. Yeah, everyone's singing along, going crazy, shots flying around. It's rock and roll. It's exactly what is needed sometimes, a good rock and roll party. So Monster Truck brought the rock. It was awesome.
Kind of on that point, when you're starting Dine Alone Records 10 years ago, did you have kind of a set goal or a mission statement in mind for what you wanted to do with this label, or even an attitude that it would have?
It's funny because I could probably say yes and make it sound like I achieved what I set out to do, but not really. It was it started because I wanted to put out Dallas's record, and I managed Alexis and City in Color, and I just wanted an outlet that wasn't Alexisonfire. Yeah. So we wanted something separate from it, just because it's such a different vibe and different music. So it was really just started to put out City in Color at the time, and obviously I wanted to put out more records and work with some great bands, but everything just moved so fast that I didn't have time to ever really think that far ahead, in 5 years I'm going to do this, and in 10 years it was kind of just like, okay, let's do it. Oh, and it just kept on snowballing, and so it was really started to put out bands I managed, and then it just kind of exploded, which is great.
Did a lot of that, well, actually, first of all, because I know you're from St. Catharines, which is where Alexisonfire, Dallas Green, obviously, are from.
And Ron Sexsmith.
Good point. And did you have, how far back did your relationship go with Dallas and the guys from Alexisonfire?
Well, I worked in the Penn Center, which is a mall in St. Catharines, and so did Dallas. I worked at Sam the Record Man, and he worked at the movie theater, I believe, at the time. I think he floated between a record store and a movie theater. Anyways, we kind of struck up a relationship because I was always like a chitty chatty music guy, and then he would talk to me about his band he was in, and we kind of traded on ideas for some bands. Like he'd tell me about a band, I'd tell him about a band, and then I went and saw his band, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And then I kind of started helping him out on whatever degree it was, and that was probably 15 years ago, maybe. I don't even know. It was a long time ago. And it kind of just, we've been together ever since. And then the Alexisonfire guys were all in other punk bands. And I was a promoter as well. So I did a ton of different stuff. And I knew all the guys individually from different bands. And they were the guys that had the biggest personalities in each band as well. So I kind of got along with them well. It's been a long relationship with them, and through so many highs and weird lows. And it's been good though. Yeah, it's been a long time.
To start a new label with City in Color, it's kind of like a dream first band in a way. Well, at least it would seem from the outside, because that album had immediate pickup and immediate popularity. What was the kind of internal infrastructure there at Dine Alone Records to deal with a big record like that right off the start?
I hope I don't piss anyone off, because I might forget people, but Christina was our publicist, myself, and at the time I had a partner that kind of dealt with some of the money stuff, and me, and that's it. Maybe there might have been one other person, I don't remember, but it was small, sorry, it was very small, but at the time it was just Canada big, so you could manage Canada big, and it was exciting because it was so new, and it kind of maybe gave me a little false expectations on how easy it is to sell a lot of records. It was like my first record goes platinum, but yeah, it was a small team at the time, but we had more time as well, so everyone was working super hard and learning, whereas now there's a staff of 30 and we're all with less time. But yeah, so we were just figuring it out. It was great. It worked out well.
That term that you just mentioned, Canada big, it's something I've seen you say a couple times in the past. And I think I know what you mean by that. And there's a plateau that can, or a complacency that can kind of set in once you achieve a level that you can maintain a successful career just by being popular in Canada. Right. But you've said as a label, as an artist, you have to be wary of that complacency. Like, do you see that a lot? Like, how does that set it in as a label and working with your artists? How do you avoid that?
Talk about it instantly. Yeah. Yeah. And it makes sense, like in anything in life, as you grow and you get accustomed to something, you don't want to go back. So, you get your new car, you get your new house, you keep getting things, and you don't want to go back. So Canada has, it can boost up any territory, really. UK, America, they all have their regional big bands, and they can't seem to get out of it. But you get accustomed to being so big and making money and shit like that, that you don't want to go slug it out anymore. And I get to a certain degree, is like the Tragically Hip probably don't need to tour the States anymore. Yeah. They're rich as shit. They're fine. Yeah. But developing bands, I think younger bands maybe get a little bit of an ego fast here. But we also have Canadian content laws. So maybe your song won't get played in the States because we have Canadian content laws. So you can't get ahead of yourself. You got to really be more realistic about it. And so I think I lost track of what I was saying. I just saw someone I knew. Sorry.
Well, just to kind of pick up there, but at Dine Alone, you're not just a Canadian label. You have a really, really wide variety of massive acts, including the Lumineers, who were a huge breakout band over the last couple of years. But a lot of my favorites, like Billy Bragg, I think is part of, if I remember correctly, is part of Dine Alone. Dinosaur Bones, Marilyn Manson. It's an intense lineup. Having those international acts, does that help? And having those connections to those major international acts, does that help? As a label, and for the Canadian artists on your label, does that help have a kind of warding against that idea of Canada big? Yeah,
it definitely builds up your global profile. I think it was about 7 years ago or 6 years ago, we made a really conscious decision to start licensing in international artists. Like we felt we knew Canada very well, and the idea was to kind of meet new managers and new teams. Also work with just awesome bands that we always want to work with on a different level, and learn from them. And that way, when we decided to really go for it in the States, we kind of got a good education from all the people that we work with in Canada. And I think it was about 2 years ago we really went for it. We opened up this office in Nashville and LA. We got a guy on the ground now in Australia, like an Australian office. You just got to kind of globalize it and keep going for it. And it's obviously, being in India, it's very difficult to be an independent label when you're up against the majors that own everything. And I think overall, music's very round right now. It's not edgy anymore. I'm waiting for someone to come and just cut and be edgy. That being said, that being said, the majors are doing extra well lately. I felt like in the first couple of years when indies were having this big upswing, it was like Arts and Crafts and Last Gang, and even the States like Merge and Sub Pop. Sub Pop's always been huge, but it seems like now it's actually more difficult because Universal owns everything. And it's just difficult. Like, I'm going to go to an arena and see if I get my songs played. No, you got to buy in through Universal. And that's fine. That's good. It's good. Like, they're killing it. It's great for them. But that's not just here in Canada. It's globally. It seems just like Live Nation owns everything. And it's becoming a little bit more difficult for the indies. So it's forcing the indies to be a bit more creative, which is good as well. I think I just went off somewhere, didn't I? Yeah, no worries.
But it does appear, I think... I can't remember the exact figures, to be honest, but I'd seen that, I believe it's 2014, had the biggest share of record sales by artists on indie labels. Oh, yeah. And there seems to be this new normal where the indies are doing a lot more of the A&R, the development, the discovery, and then the majors are doing the distribution for those indie artists. Yeah. Have you, from just in those short 10 years that Dine Alone's been around, have you noticed the role of the indies changing within the greater industry?
Well, I kind of came into it at a weird time, so yeah, it's changing because we're having to become more culturally involved. Like, all the labels are doing multiple different tasks, that it's not just a label anymore. You're promoting shows, you're doing festivals, you're managing bands. You kind of become like a Zares of music. But that being said, the indies started doing that a while ago, and the majors are doing that now. Like, all the majors have service companies now and branding companies, and they're getting involved in festivals. And So everyone's trying, just because obviously record sales are down, that you got to make money somehow to keep everything going. You know, like we actually, we have management, several labels. We have a food company. I have investments into tech companies. We're opening a record store and a little venue. Like, we're doing a lot of stuff. We're not just selling records. Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
Close enough. So it happens when you have hangovers. The sort of related to that, though, is, and it's another thing I've seen you comment on, which is that at Dine Alone, you haven't exactly been too concerned with branding the label.
Right.
And creating this, what you've called kind of a lifestyle around the brand of the label. The first that comes to mind when you talk about brand new labels is Sub Pop.
Yeah.
Sub Pop's become one of those labels that people will check out anything on Sub Pop because it's Sub Pop and you see the T-shirts and whatnot. Is this something you consciously didn't care about or just never happened? Something that you would like to create if possible? Like, what's your opinion on that? At least the necessariness of doing that.
I think this year, that's our 10-year anniversary, we kind of had a reason to kind of maybe puff out our chests a bit more. But we've always just been busy working on our bands. So, I think some people might know what Dine Alone is, but as long as I know what our bands are, that's great. However, that being said, I'm understanding a bit more the idea of branding Dine Alone and puffing out your chest a bit and getting that brand awareness and a trust with people within the brand to start, you can start offering different services out and whatnot. But this is the year where we're going for it a bit more, with our Red Bull tour and all the festivals and our pop-up record stores. Like, we're really putting it out there because we were able to hire someone to do it, basically. So none of us have time because we're working with our bands. So we brought in actually 2 people to kind of take care of like the 10-year anniversary stuff across the world. So it's interesting. I'm still actually very involved with it, though. I didn't think I had so many decisions. It's taking up a lot of time. I can't wait for the year 11. God.
Since the label started, has the philosophy as far as what bands you're going to bring on and work with, has the philosophy of how you decide that changed at all?
Well, I guess it's changed because it was initially started for the bands I managed in Dal, and then it went to like Attack and Black and Bedouin and stuff. But no, it's still just bands that we really love, and it's as long as it's great live. Ideally, I'd love them for all to be great people. That's a big one for us. It's nice when there's a nice band we're working with. It makes things easier, just happier. But no, we really if you look at our roster, granted, we have huge bands like the Lumineers and City and Color and Jimmy Eat World, and then we have very unknown singer-songwriter stuff, and we kind of float through many different styles of music, also just varying degrees of how big they are in their I guess within the music community, and it's just stuff that we love. That's it. I know maybe it's not a great way to run a business, because obviously you look at other labels, the bigger labels, they're very successful, and they're probably not signing everything they love or working on everything they love. But I'm still in the position where I can do it, and we're getting by. Maybe when I'm older, I'll sign a pop band. But right now, it's great. We're all happy with all our bands, and we listen to our bands. I'm in the car, I get to listen to music that I'm working with. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I say pretty awesome a lot. I think that's my go-to word. We'll have to edit those out.
It's pretty awesome. Lastly here, before the showcase got underway last night, I was at the Horseshoe talking with John and Jeremy from Monster Truck, and knowing that I'd be talking to you today, I'd ask them, what do you want to know about Joel or Dine Alone that you haven't figured out, and what do you want to ask them? And they actually kind of turned it around a bit on me, or turned around a bit on you, as they said when they joined Dine Alone, there was kind of a questionnaire you had given them, and they really liked some of the questions on there, so they kind of turned around a couple of those questions to you.
Okay.
And the first is, what's the first record that you remember being very passionate about and making you interested in music on a greater level?
Wow. It's funny when you ask those music fans those first records, because on any given day it's probably going to change my answer. But as of right now, I think Kiss Destroyer. That was like, that meant a lot to me, that record, because as a baby or like a 2-year-old, or I think my first Halloween I was Peter Criss when I was 2 years old, and that record kind of lived with me till now. I was just listening to it on the way in, and that record just, for some reason, as a kid, probably maybe it was the gimmick and the makeup and the hair, but the songs, like, I think Kiss, granted, new Kiss is pretty shit, but back then, man, they were onto something, and I think they're like underrated for the songs they actually were writing. Like, there were some pretty good popular songs. So Kiss Destroyer is definitely the first one as a kid.
Yeah.
Then, as you you get through life, there's records hit you differently. So that's been one through my whole life. But then I'd say, when you're getting into your teens and using music to help define yourself, it was a lot. I think like Quicksand Slip was around that time frame, and Pearl Jam 10. When you hit 15 and 16, there's like, you discover music on well, at least I did around that age. I was into rock the whole time, just tons of rock and metal, and then it was like, Fugazi, what's this? And it just opens up your mind. You're like, things are changing, and then you have money to kind of go figure out. So like Kiss was definitely the first record, then Quicksand and Fugazi and all those bands in like the 90s, just the early 90s when I was turning 15, and just changed everything. Yeah, so sorry, Kiss Destroyer, Quicksand Slip's the next one.
And kind of the reverse of that question, in a way, the other question that John and Jeremy, Monster Truck guys, kind of flipped around to ask you is, and this probably goes back to that time when music was changing for you, when you said you were 15, 16. What's the first album you threw out?
I don't want to say it. Okay. There's been two. I got... he's a nice guy, too. I was at EMI Publishing once, and they gave me a Thornley solo record.
Okay.
And I littered as well. I put the CD in, and I was like, this is awful. And I threw it out the window. I couldn't handle it. And I hate to say it because he is a talented dude, and at the time I was like, I can't handle this. And then I got a free Korn Unplugged CD. Exactly. Do you ever want to hear Korn Unplugged? And Robert Smith and the Cure's on it. And that one, I was just like, I had to hear it because it just, like, Korn Unplugged. And it's that reaction he had, Korn Unplugged, sounds like that. It's just confusing, and I threw that out. So those are the two records I remember, like, oh, God. And I did feel bad about the Thornley one. But my mom threw out my Shout at the Devil Motley Crue record when I was younger, and to date, still does not admit it. I have conversation with her, like, when are you going to admit this? She's like, I never threw it out. I'm like, I remember where I had it. I remember you giving me shit about that record. So that was her first record she threw out. My mom. It's for her. Sorry.
No, what I found just when it comes to throwing out records is like, when I went through that phase where my music tastes were changing in high school, it's like, I'm going to throw out this crap I liked before. Yeah. And then you get older and you realize, like, there was some quality to that. It might not be cool, but like there's something to it. Yeah. And then you kind of regret having thrown it out a bit.
I did sell all my tapes off to a pal once. I completely regret doing that because I had some awesome tapes that you just can't get back. But I've held on to a lot of my records. Like, if you go upstairs in my office, there's several thousand CDs. Yeah. And you're probably like, why does he have that? I'm like, someday I might enjoy that again.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. So I've held on to a lot. I've probably, what have I purged? No, I got a lot of crappy stuff. I think a lot of pop stuff I don't listen. I usually get rid of that. If I get a free CD, I get rid of that. Yeah.
You didn't go through like a Wham phase in the 80s or something?
I'm still in a Wham phase. No. Well, I still have my Culture Club record. Duran Duran records I still got. So there's a time and place for that stuff.
Exactly. They're important within the realm of music history. It's there.
I was always a rock kid. Yeah. And then I had like some good older brothers that got us into music really young. So it's like I was a kid listening to Kiss and Four Horsemen or Hendrix and Sex Pistols and Genesis and Rush. So it was like I had a good little network of older brothers that got us into a lot of great music. Plus I grew up touring around the States as a kid. So that's when I started getting into like hip hop and and Prince. Loved Prince growing up. He's so good.
Can't really go wrong with Prince. It's I was a latecomer to Prince. I didn't really get it at first, and then for some reason, actually, just in the last year, something the switch flipped or whatever you want to call it. Is like I started kind of just getting the appeal of Prince.
You got to just keep going back and back, and his early records are wicked.
Lastly, here. Streaming. During the CMW conference, streaming's a big issue. Everyone kind of trying to make sense of it and its place. It's not going anywhere, obviously. So, trying to figure out what the new normal is and how to make it a viable business rather than just something that's good for fans. I know this is a broad topic and a difficult one to. It could be an hour-long conversation in itself, really. But just generally speaking, are you optimistic about where the direction of streaming services are going as far as becoming a viable business and profit-making venture?
Optimistic. Yeah, there's a lot of smart people there trying to make money off of it. Tidal came in and maybe took that optimism down a bit. But I wish I could have a great answer for it, but to be honest, it's like I don't own a streaming company. I just deal with what's in front of me and try to understand it just as everyone else is. However, that being said, there's enough people that are really working hard to make it part of your business, and I have no clue what's even next after that. Like, it's funny, like 10 years ago, if you told me that I'd be streaming music on my phone, I'm not that forward thinking. I'd be like, fucking nuts. So I think Rob and some people in our office could probably answer that question way better than I can. Yeah, because I just kind of deal with it. It's great. The thing is, for the streaming, for me, I love the discovery from streaming. Like, because it's like I have thousands of bands that I get to hear instantly, and then I go buy their records. And I'm not, kids aren't probably buying records, but vinyl sales are up, and like, the thing about streaming is it really is opening the door for a lot of bands to get, like, Broncho's a good example for that. Class Historian, it's not on radio, we got some syncs and everything, but it's on Sirius XM, and we're to like 5 million plays on Class Historian on Spotify, and that's all from, we got some Spotify programs, and it's been great. And then they went from nobody going to their shows to selling out tons of shows and starting to get a career. So yeah, it helps. It's great. And I make wicked playlists on my streaming services. They're really good. I didn't really answer your question.
No worries. I'd like to hear those playlists. And anyways, I've kept you here long. Just if you can put it briefly, if you have an answer to this, do you have an idea of what the next, say, 5-10 years holds for Dine Alone? Is there a goal for it, or is it really kind of make it up as you go on?
Keep it going. Yeah, definitely make it up as you go along. No. Let's just continue to learn more and globalize our company. I'd like to not live here in winters, so that means going somewhere down south. Yeah, that's a good one. No, we just bought a building. We have a few different companies that we're gonna start over the next 2 or 3 years. So we're consistently just growing. But as far as the music's concerned, it's just keep on signing wicked bands. But the thing is, just like I said earlier, I have no clue what's in store over the next 5 or 10 years. Fuck, I could get killed. I don't know. I'm just going to try to spend as much time with my son. That's what I'm going to do. And I have another son on the way. So try to do that and not fail as a business owner. Try to be a great dad, not fail as a business owner. That's my next 5 to 10 years.
That's really the most important. Yeah. And congratulations on having another kid coming along.
I know.
There you go.
That.
And
vacation baby maker.
Nice.
That's why I'm never going on vacation again. Keep going on vacation, just keep making babies. Yeah.
Joel, well, congratulations again on the kid. Congratulations on Dine Alone's 10-year anniversary and the great success you guys have had in a pretty short period of time. And it's really impressive to see. And thank you for just making some time for this today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, man.
That's great. Thanks.